The sound of a cork popping echoes differently when it bounces off 300 years of imported limestone. It doesn't sound like celebration. It sounds like gunfire. I was standing by the infinity edge of the Villa Mariposa, a property I had spent the last 24 months bringing back from the dead. I wasn't wearing my usual closing day armor, the St. Laurent blazer, the heels sharp enough to puncture a lung. It was in oversized linen trousers and a sun hat, checking the pH levels of the saline water because my actual pool maintenance guy, Eduardo, was out with the flu and I refused to hand over a cloudy pool. That's the difference between a flipper and a developer. A flipper paints over mold, I exercise it. That's when I heard it, the slap of expensive leather loafers on my travertine deck. Hey, you, the one with the stick. I didn't turn around immediately. I took a breath, hailing the salt air of the Pacific and the faint, sickening scent of aggressive cologne, something that smelled like burning pine needles and desperation. When I finally pivoted, net in hand, I saw him. Logan, the buyer. He looked exactly like his dossier suggested. 30-something, wearing a t-shirt that probably cost more than my first car but looked like it had been chewed on by a goat, and sunglasses that were reflective enough to show me my own bewildered expression. It was flanked by 3 other clones, all holding champagne flutes that I recognized from the staging inventory. My crystal, my vintage Baccarat crystal. Clean the pool, girl. Logan laughed, gesturing with a glass that was dangerously close to spilling sticky Krug Grand Cuvée onto the porous stone. This house is sold. Get lost after you get those leaves out. We've got a vibe to curate here. I lowered the net. The water dripped onto my sandals. Excuse me, the leaves, he said, speaking slowly as if I were a malfunctioning Roomba. Scoop them, then vanish. My guests are arriving at 6. I want this place looking like a render. He turned back to his friends, already dismissing my existence. Can you believe the acoustics out here? We're gonna put the DJ booth right over the water. It's gonna be sick. I stood there, gripping the aluminum pole of the skimmer net until my knuckles turned the color of raw dough. This man was technically 3 days away from owning this house. The wire transfer was pending. The title company was preparing the binder. In his mind, he was already the king of the castle. In my mind, he was a barbarian at the gate. It's funny how people assume that because you're doing manual labor, you're invisible. I've sold properties to tech moguls, oil heirs, and silent movie stars. The one thing they all had in common was a basic fear of the person holding the keys. Logan had no fear, just unearned confidence and a crypto wallet full of Ethereum. By the way, if you enjoy stories about arrogant jerks getting exactly what they deserve, do me a favor and hit subscribe button and maybe drop a like. It keeps the caffeine flowing and helps me tolerate people like Logan. Thanks, you're the best. I think there's a misunderstanding, I said, keeping my voice level. It's a tone I perfected during my divorce, frequency that usually shatters glass. The property hasn't transferred possession yet. Strictly speaking, you're not supposed to be here without an agent. Logan spun around, lifting his sunglasses. He looked me up and down, sneering at my linen pants, my lack of makeup, the smudge of dirt on my cheek. Possession? He mocked, air-quoting the word. Babe, the money is in the ether. It's done. I'm just getting a head start on the renovations. Now, are you gonna clean the pool? Do I need to call your boss and tell him his cleaning lady has an attitude problem? One of his friends, a guy wearing a fedora in 2024, snickered. Careful, Logan. She might hex the water. I looked at the pool. I looked at Logan. I looked at the champagne glass leaving a ring on the outdoor kitchen counter I had custom milled in Italy. In that second, 1,000 responses flooded my brain. I could tell him I was Catherine Vale. Could tell him I owned half the hillside. I could tell him that the boss he wanted to call was me, and I was currently debating whether to drown him in the shallow end. But I didn't. Something cold and reptilian woke up in the back of my brain. It was the part of me that negotiated multi-million-dollar liens and navigated zoning wars with city councils. It was the predator that had been dormant since I finished the renovation. You're right, I said, smile stretching across my face. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a shark sensing blood in the water. I should get back to work. I'll make sure the pool is perfect. Logan didn't even acknowledge the capitulation. He just waved a hand dismissively and turned back to the ocean. Great, and grab us some more ice while you're at it. The freezer is in the cabana. I watched him walk away, strutting across my terrace, claiming my view. He thought I was the help, thought the deal was done. He thought money could buy him immunity from manners. I dipped the net back into the water, engaging in the rhythmic, meditative motion of skimming. Back and forth, back and forth. He had no idea. The closing papers were sitting on my desk in the city, 40 miles away, and right next to the line for his signature, there was a blank space for mine. A space that was currently and legally empty. Clean the pool, I whispered to myself, watching a dead wasp float into the trap. I'll clean the whole damn house. I waited until they left for dinner. They piled into a matte black G-Wagon that looked less like a car and more like a war crime on wheels, roaring down the quiet coastal road toward the only sushi place in town that serves gold leaf rolls. The silence that rushed back into the Villa Mariposa was heavy. It wasn't peaceful, it was bruised. I unlocked the main doors, massive, claimed oak slabs from a French monastery, and stepped into the foyer. I didn't turn on the lights. I didn't need to. I knew every shadow in this house because I had personally argued with the lighting designer about their placement for 3 weeks. When I bought this place 2 years ago, it wasn't a villa. It was a carcass. The previous owner had been a washed-up producer who let the termites throw a festival in the load-bearing walls. Roof leaked so badly that the living room had its own ecosystem of moss. Everyone told me to tear it down. It's a scrape, Catherine, my contractor said. Just build a glass box and sell it to a tech bro. But I couldn't. I saw the bones. I saw the arched hallways that mimicked the curves of the coastline. I saw the potential for redemption. At the time, I was going through my own demolition. My husband of 20 years had just left me for a Pilates instructor named Tinsley, leaving me with a hollow chest and a forensic accountant. Fixing this house wasn't a job. It was reconstruction surgery for my soul. I walked into the library. This was my favorite room. I had spent months sourcing the walnut paneling to match the original 1920s grain. I ran my hand along the wall, feeling the warmth of the wood. Then I stopped. My fingers brushed against something sticky. I pulled out my phone and used the flashlight, blue painter's tape. A long, jagged strip of it slashed across the intricate molding I had paid a craftsman from Artisan Guild in Seattle $10,000 to restore. Written on the tape in thick, black Sharpie was a single word, demo. My stomach dropped. I moved the light. There was another piece of tape on the built-in bookshelves, tear-out shelving for NFT screens. I felt bile rise in my throat. I walked faster, my flashlight beam shaking. Into the kitchen, tape on the marble island, too small, replace W/concrete. Into the dining room, tape on the hand-painted mural, paint white. He wasn't just living here, he was erasing it. I sat down on the floor of the dining room, right under the mural of the local flora that Logan planned to whitewash. I remembered the artist, a 70-year-old woman named Alina, painted it while telling me stories about the history of the canyon. I remembered sanding these floors on my hands and knees at 2 a.m., crying because I couldn't figure out how to be single at 45, sweating through my clothes, feeling the sawdust mix with my tears. This house was the proof that I could survive. It was the proof that broken things could be beautiful again. And Logan was going to turn it into a meta cave. I pulled my phone out again. This time I wasn't using the flashlight. I was opening my cloud drive. I navigated to the folder labeled Sales Contracts Pending. I scrolled past the standard disclosures, past the lead paint warnings, past the seismic retrofit certificates. I stopped at Addendum 14B, the Historical Integrity and Preservation Clause. It was a clause my lawyer, Saul, had insisted on inserting into all my sales of historic properties. Usually, it was a formality, way to ensure buyers didn't immediately turn a Spanish colonial into a brutalist bunker. It gave the seller, me, the right to cancel the escrow unilaterally if the buyer demonstrated intent to cause irreparable structural or aesthetic damage inconsistent with the property's heritage prior to the close of escrow. Most buyers didn't even read it. Logan certainly hadn't. He probably saw the page count and told his assistant to just sign the thing. Read the text again. Sole discretion of the seller, up to and including the moment of final title transfer. The tape on the wall seemed to glow in the darkness. Demo. Okay, Logan, I whispered to the empty room. You want a demo? Let's see what happens when we demo the deal. I stood up. The sadness was gone. That heavy, weeping feeling in my chest had evaporated, replaced by a cold, hard, geometric shape. A diamond of pure rage. I wasn't the pool girl. I was the executioner. And I had a lot of paperwork to do. My office in the city is the antithesis of the villa. It's high up, glass-walled, and sterile. It smells like espresso and expensive toner. It's where Catherine the developer lives, a woman who is rumored to have ice water in her veins and a calculator in her heart. I was at my desk by 7 a.m. On the mahogany surface lay a single manila folder. Read, 1200 Ocean Drive closing documents. To the right of the folder was my computer screen, displaying my business banking portal. A pending incoming wire transfer for $14.5 million sat in the queue. It was glowing green, seductive, and heavy. That was the profit. That was the retirement money. That was the go to Tuscany and never look back money. All I had to do was pick up the Mont Blanc pen sitting next to the folder and sign 3 times. Catherine, I looked up. Danny, my assistant, was standing in the doorway. Danny is 24, wears vintage band t-shirts under her blazers, and can find out a person's social security number, blood type, and deepest regret in under 10 minutes using only Instagram. She looked worried. She was holding her iPad like a shield. What is it, Danny? Did the title company call? No, she said, biting her lip. I saw you were reviewing the Ocean Drive file. I think you need to see something before you sign. She walked over and placed the iPad on my desk. It was a screen recording of a live stream. The timestamp was from last night. The video was shaky, vertical. It was Logan's face, close up, pores and all. He was clearly drunk, holding a bottle of tequila in the library of my house. Yo, what's up, crypto kings and queens? Logan yelled into his phone. The audio was distorted, clipping with his volume. Welcome to the future HQ of Alphabet. I just bought this dump from some old lady for pennies. I felt a muscle twitch under my eye. Old lady. Check this out, Logan continued, spinning the camera to face the antique fireplace, a 17th century French limestone mantel I had imported crate by crate. See this old rock? Ugly, right? We're gonna sledgehammer this garbage tomorrow. Gonna put a floor-to-ceiling LED wall here. Streaming charts 24/7, baby. He literally kicked, the base of the mantel. A cloud of ancient dust puffed up. And don't worry about the neighbors, he laughed, winking at the camera. I already paid off the HOA president. We're gonna turn this place into the Playboy Mansion 3.0. No rules, no limits. If the walls could talk, they'd say, help me, Logan, I'm boring. Well, Daddy's home. The video looped. Daddy's home. Daddy's home. And he watched me. She knows my tell. When I'm angry, I don't yell. I go very, very still. He called it a dump, Danny whispered. He called the Villa Mariposa a dump. He called me an old lady, I corrected, my voice barely a whisper. And he kicked the mantle of St. Louis. I looked at the wire transfer on the screen. $14.5 million. It was a lot of money, but I had money. What I didn't have was patience for vandals in Gucci slides. Danny, I said, leaning back in my Aeron chair. Get Saul on the phone. Tell him I have a question about the definition of material breach of contract. Is the deal off? She asked, her eyes widening. Not yet, I said, picking up the pen and tapping it rhythmically against the unsigned signature line. He wants to throw a party. Let's let him throw the party. He wants to play daddy. Let's show him who the matriarch is. I want everything on him, Danny. Permits, previous lawsuits, credit history, rumors, DMs. If he jaywalked in 2012, I want to know about it. And get me the guest list for this housewarming he's throwing. Danny grinned. It was a vicious, delightful look. He's using an event planner, I know. I can have the list in 5 minutes. Good, I said, turning my gaze back to the frozen image of Logan's foot connecting with my limestone. And Danny? Yeah, boss, cancel my nail appointment. I have a pool to clean. Guest list arrived in my inbox 20 minutes later, courtesy of Danny's network of terrifyingly efficient Gen Z spies. It wasn't just a list of names. It was a roster of the worst people on the internet. I scrolled through the spreadsheet. Crypto Chad, 2M followers, Bella Vibes, TikTok Hype House, The Wolf of Wall Street, not the real one, the knockoff. There were over 100 names. Sponsors included a sketchy energy drink company and an even sketchier gambling app. But what caught my eye wasn't the attendees. It was the notes column on the far right, clearly written by Logan's personal assistant for the event staff. I scanned the rows until I found my own name, or rather, the absence of it. There was a specific instruction highlighted in red. Security note, if the decorator Lady Catherine shows up, keep her away from the VIP area. She's a buzzkill. Tell her to stick to the service entrance. Do not let her talk to investors, decorator lady. I've developed 3 city blocks. I've revitalized historic districts. I've been featured in Architectural Digest twice. And to Logan, I was just the decorator lady who picked out the throw pillows. My phone buzzed. It was Saul, my lawyer. Catherine, his voice was gravelly, worn down by 40 years of contract law. I'm looking at the addendum. You're playing with fire. If you pull the plug at the 11th hour, he's going to sue. He's going to sue you, your LLC, and probably your cat. Let him sue, I said, typing furiously on my other screen, pulling up the city's zoning database. Did you see the video, Saul? I saw it. The guy is a moron, but being a moron isn't a breach of contract. Clause 14b says intent to damage. He literally said he's going to sledgehammer a historical fixture. On video, 2 million people. It's thin, Catherine. He could argue it was hyperbole. Performance art. Saul, I cut in. I found something else. I was looking at the city's permit portal. There was a recent application filed under the address 1200 Ocean Drive. It wasn't filed by me. It was filed 3 days ago by Alphabet Holdings. He filed for permit? Saul asked, his tone shifting. Filed for structural modification/demolition of non-load-bearing heritage walls. Saul, he filed it before he owned the title. That's fraud. He claimed ownership on a government document to expedite the process. Silence on the line. I could hear Saul smiling. Well, Saul said slowly, that changes the texture of things. That's not just a breach. That's perjury on a municipal application. That gives us leverage. I don't just want leverage, Saul. I want a show. Catherine, don't do anything dramatic. Just let me send the letter. The letter won't stop the party tonight, I said. He's got 100 influencers coming to trash my house. If I cancel now, he destroys the place out of spite before the sheriff gets there. I need to be there. Catherine, draft the void notification, Saul. Put it in a sealed envelope. Give it to me. I'll handle the delivery. You're going to the party? I was invited, I lied. Well, decorator lady was told to use the service entrance, so I think I'll do exactly that. I hung up. The plan was crystallizing. It was dangerous. If I messed this up, I could lose the sale and get sued for bad faith. But the image of that blue tape on my walnut walls was burned into my retinas. I opened my closet in the office, the one where I keep a change of clothes for site visits. I pushed past the silk blouses and the cashmere. I reached for the back, pulling out a pair of generic beige work pants and a navy polo shirt that said staff on the breast pocket, left over from a charity gala I organized last year. I held it up against the window. The city skyline reflected in the glass. Time to suit up, I said. I arrived at the villa at 3:00 p.m. The transformation was horrifying. The driveway was clogged with catering trucks. Huge, ugly speakers were being rigged up on the lawn, cables snaking through my lavender beds like black pythons. A banner was draped over the front entrance. Logan's launch pad, to the moon. I parked my Range Rover 3 blocks away, hidden behind a hedge, and walked up the hill. I had my hair pulled back in a severe, messy bun. I wore the beige pants, the staff polo, and a pair of oversized sunglasses. I carried a clipboard. If you carry a clipboard and walk fast, no one questions you. It is the universal passport of the working class. I slipped through the side gate. The air smelled of roasting pig. A spit roast was being set up on the tennis court, and anxiety. Planners were screaming into headsets. Where is the ice sculpture? Why is the ice sculpture melting? It's supposed to be a Dogecoin, not a puddle. I kept my head down, weaving through the chaos. I made my way to the pool terrace. Logan was there, naturally. He was shirtless now, glistening with oil, directing a crew of guys who were installing a floating platform in the pool. Careful with that. Logan yelled, that platform needs to hold the dancers. If they get wet, I'm not paying you. He turned and saw me. For a second, I thought he recognized me as the seller. But the sunglasses and the beige pants did their work. He just saw a silhouette of servitude. Hey, pool girl, I stopped. My hand tightened on the clipboard. Yes, I thought I told you to clean this. There's still dust on the water. It's surface tension dust, I said, making it up. If I skim it now, the chemicals will imbalance. He stared at me blankly. Whatever, just make it look wet and expensive. And hey, go tell the bar staff inside to start opening the Magnum bottles. We need them breathing. I nodded, of course. Any particular vintage? The big ones, he said, turning away. The ones that look good on camera. I walked past him toward the house. As I passed the outdoor kitchen, I saw the catering manager, a woman I recognized named Alina, who I had hired for my own firm's holiday party 2 years ago. Alina looked up, saw me, and her eyes went wide. She started to say, Miss Vale. I pressed a finger to my lips instantly. SHHH, Alina froze. She looked at my outfit, then at the chaos around us, then back at my face. She was a professional. She understood instantly that a game was being played. Can I help you? The inventory? She asked, improvising perfectly. I leaned in close. Alina, listen to me carefully. Do not prep the wine room. The vintage collection in the cellar, keep it locked. Serve the catering wine. Serve the stuff he brought. But he ordered us to open the 1982 Petrus, Alina whispered, looking terrified. He doesn't own the 1982 Petrus yet, I said calmly. And he never will. Keep the cellar locked. If he asks, tell him the key broke. Tell him I have the spare. You're staying? Oh, I'm staying, I said, glancing back at Logan, who was now taking a selfie with the roasting pig. I have a front row seat. Miss Vale, Alina whispered, a small smile appearing. They are drilling holes in the travertine for the DJ booth. I know, I said, don't worry. The bill is going to be astronomical. I walked into the house. It was cool and dark. I could hear the bass testing outside, thump, 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 like a headache trying to get in. I went to the library. The blue tape was still there, demo. I reached into my bag and pulled out the envelope Saul had given me an hour ago. It was heavy, cream-colored paper, wax seal. It looked like a wedding invitation, but it was a funeral notice for his dreams. I placed it inside the drawer of the antique desk in the corner. Enjoy the party, Logan, I whispered. It's going to be a short one. The sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in violent shades of bruised purple and orange. The guests started trickling in. I had retreated to the servants' quarters, a small, tasteful studio above the garage that I had originally designed for a live-in housekeeper. It had a direct view of the main house and the driveway. It was my command center. My phone lit up. It was Logan's real estate agent, a guy named Bryce, who wore suits that were too tight and smiled with too many teeth. Text from Bryce, Catherine, we need the final countersigned doc. Logan is freaking out. He wants to flash the deed during his speech tonight. PLS send ASAP. I typed back slowly. Me having some scanner issues. The file is corrupt. Resending shortly. Bryce, he is literally screaming at me. Just take a pic of the signature page and text it. Me, technical difficulties. Stand by. I put the phone down. Let him scream. Below me, the noise was rising. Fleet of Ubers and rented Lamborghinis was clogging the driveway. Women in dresses that defied physics and men in streetwear that cost more than my mortgage were spilling out. Phones raised, live streaming their entry. I opened TikTok on my burner account. I searched for #Logan launch. The first video was trending. It was Logan, posted 10 minutes ago. He was wearing a white suit that made him look like a cocaine-addicted televangelist. What's up, guys? He shouted over the music. We are live from the mansion. Just waiting on the final paperwork from the seller. Some menopausal pool lady who can't figure out how to use DocuSign. Seriously, why do boomers even own property? She's probably trying to find her reading glasses. But who cares? We are in. Possession is 9/10 of the law, right? He laughed. His friends laughed. The comments rolled in. Elmau boomer remover. By her life, Logan. Savage. I stared at the screen. Menopausal pool lady. I am 46. I run a $20 million portfolio. I do yoga 5 times a week. And yes, my reading vision is slipping, but I can still read the fine print better than he ever could. The insult didn't hurt. It clarified. It stripped away the last lingering doubt I had about professionalism. This wasn't business anymore. This was a public service. I was taking out the trash. I checked the time. 7:45 p.m. The sun was down. The party was in full swing. The bass was shaking the window frames of the garage apartment. I stood up and walked to the mirror. I stripped off the beige pants and the polo shirt. Underneath, I wasn't wearing Spanx. I was wearing a black silk jumpsuit by Alexander McQueen. It was tailored to within an inch of its life. Sharp shoulders, plunging neckline. It said owner. It said goddess. It said run. I let my hair down, shaking out the messy bun into loose, calculated waves. I applied a coat of red lipstick. The shade is called Russian red, but I call it war paint. I slipped into my heels, 4 inches of steel. I checked the permit printout one last time. Applicant, Alphabet Holdings. Date, Oct. 14th. He had signed his death warrant on government stationery. I grabbed my clutch. I didn't need a key to the main house. I knew the code. I knew the pressure points. I opened the door of the studio and stepped out into the cool night air. The music was deafening now, a thumping techno beat that vibrated in my sternum. I walked down the stairs. The shadows concealed me. I moved toward the main terrace, not as a ghost, but as the haunting itself. It was time to toast the host. The main terrace was a circle of hell Dante forgot to write about. 300 people were crammed onto the stone deck. The air was thick with vape smoke, marijuana, and cheap ambition. A DJ was spinning on the platform Logan had built over the pool, and a girl in a bikini was fire dancing dangerously close to my drought-resistant landscaping. I moved through the crowd like a shark through a school of tuna. People bumped into me, spilling drinks, not apologizing. They didn't look at faces, they looked at follower counts. Since I didn't have a camera crew, I was irrelevant obstacle. "Excuse me," guy with face tattoos muttered, shoving past me to get to the oyster bar. I didn't shove back, I just glided. I made my way to the edge of the crowd, near the French doors leading to the living room. From here, I had a clear view of the stage, the elevated step where Logan was holding court. He was holding a microphone in one hand and a magnum of champagne in the other. He was sweating. The white suit was already stained. "Listen up." His voice boomed over the speakers. It dipped. "I just want to say, looking around tonight, this is what winning looks like. Cheers, whoops. Someone threw a glow stick. They told me crypto was dead. Logan yelled. They told me I was crazy. But look at this place. We took it. We conquered it. This is the Alphabet headquarters now." He gestured grandly at the house behind him, my house. And to the previous owners, he sneered, "Thanks for keeping the seat warm. But history is over. The future is here." He raised the bottle. The crowd roared. I stood perfectly still, my arms crossed. I wasn't looking at Logan. I was looking at the woman standing next to him, his fiancée. Her name was Crystal, I recalled from the file. She was young, pretty, and looked bored. But as she scanned the crowd, her eyes locked onto mine. She blinked. She frowned. She looked at my dress, the McQueen, and then at my face. She looked at the way I was standing, the authority, the lack of a smile. I saw the realization hit her. She nudged Logan. "Babe," I saw her mouth the word. "Not now," Logan brushed her off. "Babe, look," she pointed at me. Logan squinted through the spotlights. He looked in my direction. At first, he didn't see me. He just saw a woman in black. Then I took a step forward into the light. I didn't wave. I didn't yell. I just stared at him with the cold, dead eyes of a woman who has survived a divorce, a market crash, and a renovation. Logan's smile faltered. The microphone dipped. "Is that?" he muttered. The speakers picked it up. "Is that the cleaning lady?" I smiled. It was the same smile I gave him when he told me to clean the pool. But this time I wasn't holding a net. I turned and walked through the open French doors into the living room, into my living room. I heard Logan's voice over the speakers, nervous now. Hold on, guys. Technical difficulty. DJ, keep it going." Dropped the mic and scrambled off the stage, following me inside. The trap was sprung. He was coming to me. I walked to the antique desk. I opened the drawer. I took out the envelope. I turned around just as Logan burst into the room, his face flushed with adrenaline and champagne. "Hey," he shouted. "What the hell are you doing? I told you to use the service entrance. And where did you get that dress? Did you steal it from the closet?" I laid the envelope on the desk. "Hello, Logan," I said. My voice was calm, resonant in the high-ceilinged room. "I think it's time we discuss the closing." Logan skidded to a halt on the Persian rug. The bass from outside was muffled here, a dull throb like a dying heartbeat. "Discuss the closing?" He laughed, a breathless, incredulous sound. "Lady, you're the help. I don't discuss closings with the help. Get out before I call security and have you thrown out." He reached for his phone. "Actually, I'm gonna record this. This is content. Crazy cleaning lady crashes party." I waited until he had his phone raised. "My name," I said, enunciating clearly, "is Catherine Vale. I am not the cleaning lady. I am the owner of this property, and the developer you've been insulting on TikTok for the last 6 hours." Logan froze. The phone lowered slightly. He squinted at me, his brain trying to reconcile the woman in the beige pants with the woman in the Alexander McQueen. "Bullshit," he said. "Seller is some old." He trailed off. He looked at my eyes. He saw the recognition. "Oh," he said, "the arrogance didn't vanish, it just shifted gears." "Oh, wow, okay, so you're the seller. Came to crash the party? Little weird, but whatever. Did you bring the papers? Bryce said you were having scanner issues." He held out a hand, snapping his fingers. "Give him here. Let's get this over with. I got investors waiting." "I didn't bring the papers to be signed, Logan," I said, tapping the envelope on the desk. "What, you want more money?" He rolled his eyes, reaching into his jacket pocket. "Classic, you see the Lambos and you want a squeeze. Fine, how much? 10 grand, 20? I'll Venmo you right now, just sign the deed. It's not about money. Everything is about money," he spat. "Don't give me that philosophical crap. I bought the house. The money is in escrow, it's done. You're just a squatter with a nice dress at this point." I picked up the envelope, broke the wax seal. The sound was sharp in the quiet room. "Actually," I said, sliding the document out, "I'm the owner, you are the squatter, and you are currently trespassing." I handed him the paper. What is this? He grabbed it, crumpling the edges. That is a notice of cancellation of sale based on Clause 14B of our purchase agreement, I said, reciting the words I had memorized. Violation of historical integrity. And more importantly, notice of breach due to fraudulent permit filing prior to title transfer. Logan scanned the paper. His face went blotchy. Clause 14 what? You can't do this. I paid. The escrow hasn't closed. My signature isn't on the deed, and it never will be. He looked up, his eyes bulging. You crazy bitch, you can't cancel. I have 300 people outside. I have sponsors. This is my launch. It was your launch, I corrected. Now it's my living room again. I don't allow smoking in here. He took a step toward me, his fists clenched. The physical threat was there. I'm going to sue you into the ground. I'm going to bury you. I will ruin your life. Logan, I said, stepping closer to him, removing the sunglasses I was still holding. I have survived interest rates of 18%. I have survived a divorce from a man who hid assets in the Cayman Islands. I have survived city council meetings that lasted until 4 a.m. You really think a boy with a crypto wallet and a rented suit scares me? I pointed to the door. You have 10 minutes to clear the premises. If you don't, the police, who are currently parked at the bottom of the hill, by the way, will be invited up for a drink. And I don't think they like techno. Logan stared at me. He looked at the paper. He looked at the walls he wanted to demolish. You're joking, he whispered. I never joke about architecture, I said. Get out of my house. Logan didn't move. He stood there, paralyzed by the sheer impossibility of no, so I did it for him. I walked past him, out the French doors and back onto the terrace. The music was still pounding. The girl was still fire dancing. I walked straight to the DJ booth. The DJ, a kid with bleached hair, looked down at me. Cut it, I said. What? He yelled over the beat. I reached over and yanked the power cord out of the main mixer. Silence was violent. The bass died instantly. The lights flickered and went to a static white wash. 300 people stopped talking and turned to look at the booth. Hey, someone yelled, drop the beat. I tapped the DJ's microphone. It was still live on the battery backup. Thump, thump. Ladies and gentlemen, my voice echoed across the canyon. Can I have your attention, please? The crowd murmured. Phones went up. Flashlights blinded me. There has been a change of plans, I said, my voice steady and cold. This property is not the headquarters of Alphabet. It is a private residence, and the sale has been canceled. A gasp rippled through the crowd. I saw Logan stumbling out of the living room, looking like a man who had just been shot. The party is over, I continued. You are all trespassing on private property. Security is on the way. Please make your way to the exits immediately. Uber wait times are currently quite long. She's lying. Logan screamed from the deck, his voice cracking. She's crazy, don't listen to her. I looked down at him from the raised booth. Logan, the police are at the gate. You filed a demolition permit on a house you don't own. It's fraud. Do you really want to have this conversation in front of? I gestured to the sea of phones, your followers. Logan looked at the phones. He saw the red REC circles. He realized that his meltdown was being streamed in 4K. He paled, grabbed Crystal's hand. We're leaving, he muttered. But babe, the gift bags, Crystal wailed. We're leaving, I watched them go. It was a stampede of confusion. Influencers scurried like cockroaches when the lights come on. The DJ packed his gear in record time. The fire dancer doused her flames. Within 20 minutes, the terrace was empty. The silence returned. The real silence. The sound of the ocean crashing against the rocks below. The sound of the wind in the eucalyptus trees. Lena, the catering manager, walked up to me. She was holding a bottle of wine. Miss Vale, she said softly. Everyone is gone. The staff is packing up the kitchen. We saved the food. Keep it, I said. Take it home. Feed your families. And this? She held up the bottle. It wasn't the cheap stuff Logan brought. It was a 2015 Cabernet from my cellar. She must have unlocked it. He asked for the good stuff. Alina smiled conspiratorially. I thought you might need a glass. I took the bottle and 2 glasses. Join me, Alina. We walked to the edge of the infinity pool. The water was dark and glass-like. I sat on the coping, dipping my feet, still in the McQueen heels, into the water. I didn't care. I poured the wine. We clinked glasses. You lost the sale, Alina said quietly. That was a lot of money. I kept the house, I said, looking at the limestone facade glowing in the moonlight. And I kept my dignity. The market will turn. Will be other buyers. Ones who don't wear sunglasses at night. I looked down at the water. Floating near the edge was the skimmer net I had used earlier that day. I picked it up. It was light, cheap aluminum, but in my hand it felt like a scepter. Besides, I took a sip of the wine, feeling the warmth spread through my chest. I finally finished cleaning the pool. The trash is gone. I drank to the sound of the ocean, and for the first time in 3 years, the house didn't feel like a project. It felt like home.
Well, that was a ride.
Yeah.
People never stop surprising me. Appreciate you sticking around to the end.